And we're live and recording. It says, and now Brandy needs to reconnect. All right.
Well,
it's just gonna be that way. Oh, there you are.
Good. All right.
It's a good thing there are 3 of us so that we can keep this show going no matter what happens.
That's right.
Good. All right. Can everyone see and hear us? Yes? No? Let us know in the chat. Yay.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah. Let us know. Ta-da. Okay. I don't know.
I think yay and ta-da means.
Okay. There you go. Good. Thank you. Thank you all for letting us know. Maybe there was a delay. Good morning. I am Abby Wall, and I am here with my good friends Brandy Venzel and Misty Winkler. And today we are here to kick off a little bit of planning. So crazy things have been happening. Everyone must stay home and do nothing, right? Life has stopped. Oh, wait.
There's nothing to do at home.
Yeah. Oh, wait. It hasn't stopped. And yet it feels like that. Disruptions abound. Uncertainty is everywhere. Kids are home. Husbands are home a lot. Or possibly there's unemployment looming, right? There's all these things completely out of our control. A lot of anxiety and worry and concern. And we know as Christians, we are called to cast all our cares upon the Lord. And, so we should just do that. All right. But today, what we're going to be talking about is coming up with a way to combat some of these issues, right? We are needing to come up with a plan. Because we do have very little control over our lives. And it's seasons like this that really bring that to the forefront of our minds, right? When things are going our way and everything is working as it should, as I decree, then everything is fine in the world. And then things change, things happen. People are told to wash their hands and stay home. No one can go anywhere. And then what do? It's like we have to do something. It's like, what just happened? I can't figure out what to do. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about 4 key things. 1, we need to talk about our spiritual disciplines because we are called to be Christians, faithful and fruitful in whatever circumstance, in plenty or in want. 2, we're going to talk about our intellectual disciplines because we now have time to read and think about important things, but not just obsessing about news and obsessing about things that are happening in our lives. So we need to actually put good things into our minds so that we can be thinking fruitful thoughts. 3, physical. When we're home a lot, things get messier. We have a physical space that we need to care for. We have physical bodies that we also need to care for. And we just have things that we need to take care of physically. So we need to come up with a plan for that because things have changed. 4, we need to talk about relationships. We are all meant to be in community. We are to be a part of the body of Christ. And in order to do that, we need to be connecting with people. And this means that we need to become creative about this, and we need to be intentional about this, and we need to be building family culture. So those are the 4 things we're going to talk about because those are 4 things that we do have. We can have some self-control, and therefore when we have the self-control to have these disciplines and have a plan in place, then we can make these important things happen. So we will each take a little bit of one of these sections, and then hopefully we will be able to answer some questions at the end. What we want this time to be is a way for us to connect as a group, to encourage one another. We've had plenty of doom and gloom and this is so hard and all that stuff, but we now need to be done wallowing, and we need to put on our rain gear, as in my case, and get to work, because life is still happening, and we need to make it happen, and we need to have a plan, and we need to have follow through. And I'm so thankful that all of you have signed up. There are so many of you here, and this is so encouraging to me, because this means that so many of you do want to have, be faithful, to be fruitful, even in this time when it looks different. So today you should have downloaded maybe some sheets. We had a little printable, and it was a way to brainstorm 30, 60, 90-day plans. Yes, Brandy has a beautiful, colorful printed one. I do not. And then we also have an online digital tool called Notion, and we have a 30, 60, 90-day plan as well. So you can use either of these. For me, I'm a paper person, so I love to write things down first and brainstorm. And we just want to focus on these areas. These areas are big, and they can be so creative. There's so many things that we can do that are good. And we really can hone in on some habits, work on some homemaking skills, read some great books, and we can build relationships and build up our families. So this is an opportunity for great things, even in the midst of what feels like very chaotic and very uncertain. So I think that's all I have to say for right now. So I'll pass it off on to someone else.
All right. Is that me, Misty? I think I'm doing.
I was just trying to get my computer being so slow right now.
Yeah, some people have said that they cannot get the streaming, but there will be a replay. This will be available for free.
That's true.
And
the worksheet is like right. At least
so the green,
it's right here.
Yeah,
the green button takes you to the digital version, and we've had a few people ask, but you can duplicate that by coming here to the sidebar that's gray and clicking the 3 dots there and duplicate 2, and then your free account should show up there. It'll duplicate, and then you can edit on the screen while you listen if your computer is not slow like mine.
Or if you're really computer literate and can focus on things like that. I cannot. Personally, I would just be like, I'm just going to listen right now. So that's totally fine as well. You can always redo this. Yeah, you can. I don't think you can print off the digital format. I don't know how to do that. We're brand new to Notion, but we really like the ease of the use so far. So
let me, I'll pop the printable link back in again.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, next up is Brandy talking about our spiritual
disciplines.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to start off by reading you a tiny bit of Dante, because I asked myself when this whole thing started, what kind of person do I want to be? I decided I wanted to be the kind of person who read Dante during quarantine. If I was a better person, maybe I would have been Isaac Newton and invented calculus, but I'm not capable of this. So I decided I would read something so he wasn't on quarantine, but he was exiled from Florence. He was having a hard time. This is like the greatest midlife crisis in the history of mankind. So, what I found interesting about the beginning of Dante's Inferno, so the Divine Comedy is divided into 3 books, right? Inferno, Purgatorio, and then Paradiso.
Randy,
yes.
Can you turn up your volume?
Yeah, I just have to hold it up.
Yep.
Sorry. This is going to be fun. Okay,
it's not better.
Oh.
It's not better? Oh.
It's not using that mic.
Okay, let me unplug and maybe that'll be better.
Okay, thanks.
Is that better?
Oh, so much better.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I'll just yell. I'm at home yelling. Okay, so at the beginning of Dante's Inferno, he says that he's lost his way. Right. So he's having this midlife crisis. He's exiled. He says he's lost his way. And then we find out one of the things he's really struggling with is cowardice. And I couldn't help but think of all of us and about how, in the midst of this disequilibrium, it's very easy to get frightened. Right. And we talk about frightened as if this is okay. But But in Dante's Inferno, being a coward is not okay. Even hell doesn't want you. So, which I know, it is hilarious. Okay, so it says, this is in Canto 2, it says, if I have understood what you have said, your soul has been assailed by cowardice, which often weighs so heavily on a man, distracting him from honorable trials, as phantoms frighten beasts when shadows fall. And I thought about us, and I thought, you know what? Like, in this time when it's so easy for us to get scared, what do we need to do? We have to find our way back to the path, right? Dante lost the path. We have to find our way back to the path, and we have to be brave. And for Dante, like, this whole thing is actually to help him be brave. And it starts with a tour of hell. And if he can do a tour of hell, we can do daily life. So I was thinking about this, and I thought about how really for him, the cure for his cowardice in facing his trials, right? And the way that he found his way back to the path was really an encounter with an eternal reality, right? So then the question is, like, we're not going to have Virgil and Beatrice visit us and take us on a whirlwind tour of the afterlife. So what's going to happen? Well, the spiritual disciplines, I think, are our solution for all of this. So, like, what are our big spiritual disciplines? Like, our top three, there are many, right? But our top three are church attendance, the fellowship of the saints, right? Daily Bible reading, and prayer. Okay, so my whole thing about church attendance is it can feel like, because the government has decided that church is a non-essential service, which is awesome. We could talk about the politics of that another time. There is no fellowship of the saints right now, right? And so that can be very discouraging, but most churches are actually doing something offline, right? Now, if yours isn't, then you can ask in the comments, and I'm sure all of us could link you to one of our churches so that you can at least get, like, sermons and encouragement and stuff during this time. But I think I go to a smaller church, and we're offline at this point. So, or I should say online, not offline. So I think it's still possible to have the fellowship of the saints in a way. We're not Gnostic, so we believe in the real gathering of the real saints in the flesh, right? But that doesn't mean it's all or nothing. So attending whatever your church is doing would be great. Our church actually added something midweek since everyone's at home. So there are ways. Then the second thing would be our daily Bible reading. And I know there are plans. I think, Abby, you said you were going to link your plan in the comments sometime. So what does the Bible tell us? Like, I have hid your word in my heart that I might not sin against you, right? It's the Lord. So this is how we find the path, right? And it helps us not sin. It reminds us of what is true. This is our other and eternal encounter, if you will. And so, I don't know, for me, I just read basically 4 chapters a day. I do 2 out loud with my children at breakfast, and I do 2 in the evenings by myself. And that's just what I've been doing. So, and you eventually read the whole Bible if you keep doing that. So the last thing would be prayer. And Abby already said this, right? It's an anxious time. And what are we supposed to do with our anxieties? Scripture says, cast all your anxieties on the Lord because he cares for you. So anyway, those are our top 3. Like I said, there are other disciplines. There are things like memorizing scripture, and there are things like meditation. And when we're looking at 30, 60, 90 days, I would say these top 3 are your 30 days, right? These are your priorities in the beginning. Then you can add and layer other things on top of that, but you want to get the primary stuff right first. And so that would be our top 3: fellowship of the saints, daily Bible reading, and prayer. And I think that's all.
Great.
For that section.
Great. All right, Misty, you're up, right? Intellectual. You're muted. I couldn't figure out how to mute myself. Oh, it looks like there's some great options in the chat too. So be sure to check those out.
Yes. Okay. My computer was just slow. Okay. I probably should have restarted before hosting a live thing. So, our intellectual lives, the intellectual disciplines, it seems like, we're home, there's more time, which I still haven't found yet. But because there's so many distractions coming in, it feels like our mental capacity It just isn't there. And that's normal. If that's happening, like, it's normal. It's not because something's wrong with you or you can't handle it. Like, it's just normal. Distractions prevent our mind from focusing and thinking clearly. But reading is one way to get them back. To choose reading a long form hard copy book instead of TV, news, or internet browsing or social media. Those are things that fragment our thinking, as well as even just our eye focus, and the way that we consume the information is different. So it doesn't have to be City of God or Aristotle or something to count.
Right.
Pick up a novel and just get lost in someone else's story. Read some history, maybe. I think that both novels and history can help give us perspective in a situation, help realize that we are in a story, and that can give us the perspective we need to just process stuff. So I also think this is where the Brandy's reading chart really helps. The idea that we have different kinds of reading going on at one time. So you have something that's challenging, you have something that's just moderate, normal, and you have something that's easy. And you pick up what you feel fit for. And that's from a parent review article, I believe. Don't feel bad if you're always reaching for the easy, but keep an easy there and build the habit of having a reading time, even if you're not reading what you think you ought to be reading. Just start with reading, period. And if you are wanting to build the habit of having time to read, tie that habit to something that's already happening in your day. So even meals are still happening, that's the easy one. Read while you're eating your breakfast or your lunch, or after lunch instead of, something else. Pick up a book. And when we tie a new habit to something that's already established in our daily patterns, it's much faster and easier for that habit to stick. And it doesn't have to be a whole 30 minutes, even if we're just for the 30 days, you can just read something, anything that's on paper, tie it to a habit or a part of your routine that's already reliable, and just make it 5 minutes. Like, make it as small as possible until the habit's established. And then when you get to 60, 90 days, you can start building on it. But the first 30 days, you're just like thinking of it as a save the date or a placeholder habit building. And along the same lines, I think it's really helpful. I just started this week. I set a silent alarm on my Fitbit to remind me at 8:30 p.m. that it's time for the computers to go off. Like, no more, whether it's my phone or whether it's thinking that I'm still getting things done. That needs to go away and have some reading time. Now, that backfired yesterday because I picked up a novel, and I have to be careful. Sometimes reading at night actually does not help me because it like wakes my brain up. Reading wakes me up. So it's kind of weird. And so I have to, you learn your own habits also. You learn the way that your body works, and that's okay to experiment. And sometimes even when you know this, you forget and behave in ways that you still shouldn't. But so I will share the link to Brandy's reading chart, but it can help you. I would recommend for the first 30 days her chart says 30 minutes. So you mark it off at 30 minutes. But for building this habit, if you can adjust that, make it work for you, and start with 5 minutes. And then for the next month, make it 10 minutes and kind of grow it. All right, now
Okay.
for the part that I've been dreading.
Yeah, I know you will. So this is physical disciplines. And also for one of the physical things is, I love that you put a silent alarm. I put my phone to turn to grayscale at 8 p.m. So it is much less enticing to scroll through things when it's been black and white. And that kind of just gives me the visual cue to put my phone away. So that's one easy thing that almost every single phone has. So you can just do that. And then it's like, oh, trigger, put away your phone. You don't need it anymore. It might even be at 7:30. I can't remember, but I just put it away. So, all right, physical disciplines. So we have our physical bodies and we have our physical spaces. So we're going to talk a little bit about those. I might be more than 5 minutes. I'm sorry. So we're going to talk about exercise first. There was a lot of people who commented either on social media or in sistership about physical routines. So I am an exerciser. I love exercise, and I don't just love doing it and feeling good after. Like, I actually and genuinely enjoy it. I do personally believe that there is some form of exercise out there that everyone can love. If you hate it, then stop doing it. Find something that you love. We are physical bodies and we need to move. We are designed to move. There's so much scientific research. My husband just rolls his eyes anytime there's scientific research, but but there is so much, and it's also related to not just good for your physical body, like, keeping off extra pounds, but you increase your energy levels. It improves your mood up to 6+ hours. So pretty much all day. It reduces anxiety. So if just praying about it isn't feeling like enough, then maybe you need to go and run and pray while you're running. And that will reduce your anxiety. It has been an effective treatment for clinical depression. The way depression and anxiety meds work is that it releases, the synthetic versions of those dopamine and endorphins and all those different things.
Yeah.
What?
Serotonin.
Yeah. Serotonin. There we go. But it doesn't release it. It releases it basically all at once. Exercise, on the other hand, it changes the way your brain reacts to it, and it has a long-term lasting effect. Now, if you are on medicines, obviously follow your doctor's prescription. But if you add exercise to it, it will be beneficial to you. So if you are really struggling with anxiety and depression in this, please go on a walk, go on a run. Those are both free things. And I understand that people are like, well, shelter in place. Yes. And yet, if a cop stops you, you can just keep on running and say, I'm keeping my social distancing and I'm getting my exercise. All right. So let's be realistic. You'll be fine. If you cannot get outside, there are so many exercises you can do within like a 5x5 space. Most of you are probably not over 6 feet tall. So let's call it 6x6 feet. Guess how many burpees you can do in 7 minutes? I don't know. Find out. If you want a great 7-minute exercise. Oh, Brandy, stop it. You can totally do more than that. Challenge your children with you to do this. I understand people don't like exercises. Yes, burpees are wonderful. They're wonderful, invented by the Lord just for your pleasure. They get your heart rate up, they get those endorphins going, and you can be done in 7 minutes and you can do a great job. Okay, fine. For those of you who do not love exercise, can you walk? Yes? Great. Go walk around your neighborhood and pray for every single neighbor on your street. What a wonderful spiritual and physical discipline, all wrapped into one. You can do something that is beneficial to your body, and you should. It will improve. It also improves cognitive function. Your memory works better. It's like Miracle Grow for your brain. You will be able to concentrate. You'll be able to be a receptive learner. Also, some of my best thoughts happen when I am on a long walk and I am just quiet, and I really get a lot of thinking done. We are called in our intellectual lives to contemplate. That is what Scholé is contemplation and worship, right? And when does contemplation happen? Walking, doing something more meditative, right? So, I also think that we need to talk about our physical bodies, as in, what are we eating? In stress situations, often people, what do they reach for? Nutrient-dense, delicious food? Or what do? Do we stuff donuts in our mouths? Or whatever your treat.
I heard that we have to keep local businesses going.
Sure.
So you have to order donuts.
Okay. Yes. Excellent. Good. Yeah. So, but sugar, the more sugar you eat, the more you crave it. So if you stop eating sugar, you will stop craving it. Amazing. We believe here at Scholé Sisters that exposure breeds taste. That means you can expose yourself to lots of different types of exercise and you will eventually get a taste for it, right, girls? And
That's right.
if you start serving fruits and vegetables and things that are nutrient dense to your families, then they will eventually come to that. Right now, you are probably limited on where you can shop and when you can shop and how many times you can go to the store. You need to start planning these things. And do you know what you can do with your money? Not buy nutrient deficient foods. We're not going to call them junk foods, but less than ideal options. So if we buy good food for our families and we make those purchasing votes with our dollars, we can choose what we have actually a lot of control over what we eat. We think, oh no, I just couldn't help myself because the cookies were there. Who bought the cookies? You know what? By all means, make a cake. You guys, but make it from scratch. Do you know how much better a at-home made cake is? And you also are probably getting better quality ingredients, right? Yes, make your cookies. Have your kids eat lots of them. Limit yourselves, right? We can do these things. We can make them from scratch, but reaching for convenience foods, that's what I've noticed is like, man, I am spoiled. I am just so used to just grabbing things off the shelf and being able to do these. And right now, I get to focus a little bit more on my skills as a homemaker, right? I get to build up those skills. So we're physical bodies. What are we putting in? How are we moving them throughout the day? And then our physical spaces. So I had one quote from the Bible that I just love, or a verse from the Bible. And I always love this because it just cracks me up. Where there is no oxen, the manger is clean, but abundant crops come by the strength of the ox. And I just always, my sister-in-law said at one time, a long time ago, she's like, where there are no children, the house is clean, but with abundance of children, the messes are abundant. Or something like that. But there's a lot of good things about having our kids at home. But if you are new to having your kids at home or having your children at home even more, right? Homeschoolers have lots of activities outside of the house. Then we need to make times. Oh, that's Proverbs 14:4, but it's but right above it is a super convicting one, which I'm going to throw out there. The wisest of women builds her house, but folly with her own hands she tears it down. So right now we can work on being wise women who are building their houses and habits and health and all these things through this. But so having people at home all the time is going to require more time cleaning. It just is. You are going to have to. And especially with recommendations of cleaning doorknobs and cleaning surfaces and things like that, it's okay. Enlist your children. Your children are completely capable of doing chores. My kids basically do all the housework. I am there to train them and teach them. And they were doing their full-on chores by the time they were 4, 5, 6 years old, doing all the laundry, all these things. They are completely capable. It will take some training. you can have them help you. You are going to need it. Everyone gets to pull together, right? So having times, like Misty said, reading times connected to something you already do. So meal times, after meal times, are a great time for everyone to do a 10-minute tidy. Misty has lots of posts about EHAP, which is everything has a place. And we also at my house call it everyone has a part. Everyone comes together. We all do as much as we can, cleaning up things. And you know, I have kids that are like, I don't see anything. And there's like a giant pile right in front of them. Obviously, this takes some time and effort to teach them, but it is a habit that is worth keeping for the long term. So all of these things that we're talking about, these are long-term sustainable practices that all of us get an opportunity to work on because we're at home and we don't have anywhere to go. One other thing about physical thing is I know a lot of people have been joking about how, oh, we can just stay in our pajamas all day and we don't have to do any of these things. Might I encourage you to wake up and still get ready for the day like you have somewhere to go. Your life, what is it? I think it's a Mr. Megorium's Magic Emporium, which is a wonderful movie, but your life is an occasion, rise to it. Just because you can stay in your pajamas all day, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with having a pajama day. I know some people are homeschoolers to pajama schoolers, and that's great. But if you are a normal, get ready, get dressed, put your game face on, then do that. Don't act like this is a vacation because it's not. We still can act normal. We can still be who we are called to be, who God has called us to be. And we can be a light and a beacon of hope for our communities, right? We can be the sane ones who aren't hoarding toilet paper, right? We can be Christians who are like, here, let us give to you out of our abundance because we know that God provides for us. Keep your shoes outside. We don't need more messes. Amen. So, and then we're all going to kind of chat a little bit about the relational.
Can I say something really quickly?
Yeah.
Just because I think I'm going to forget it. It's just, I loved the way you focused on opportunities. And I was thinking about this, that when everyone's at home more, sometimes it can be discouraging because there are problems, like we're noticing problems. And I honestly think that all of us, homeschooler or not, often we avoid problems by being out of the house more. So like character issues, habits, all these things come up and we avoid them by building busy lives. And I know that's not the only reason why we build busy lives. We select good things for our children. But I'm just saying, seeing it as an opportunity to notice problems that are real, that are there, and work on them. This is a way of taking something that could be a crisis time and turning it into a fruitful time. Your kids might look back and say, remember that year we were all quarantined? You know, that was really cool. That was life-changing. That was, you know, when I learned to sew or when I learned to draw or what, I mean, so it's so easy for us to freak out because there's like some problem that we start to notice, but it's possible it's always been there and we were just too busy to notice. And so allowing this to be a time that's uncomfortable, but being able to confront some of these things that have been there and we didn't see it, I think it's actually, it's a good approach to take of, okay, this has probably always been here. So now we have the time, we have the luxury of time to actually deal with it. So anyway, I didn't want to forget that part.
Yeah.
Well, I think that transitions great into what we were going to do, relational. Yeah. And it reminds me of the metaphor that Rachel Jankovic uses of the rock tumbler. Like each person's a rock, you put them all in one space and add life. And it's abrasive and it's irritating, but it's the process of sanctification. And so instead of feeling like it's a set of failures or a set of problems, like it is, but now you know it. And so you can begin addressing it and repairing relationships and having discussions and getting on the same page with your husband. And it's a time where it becomes more and more obvious how needed it is, how separated and fragmented our families have become. And when the need is apparent, then we have that motivation to do something about it. So to see it as an opportunity, and that you don't have to start off with a perfect family or perfect relationships, but to grow together during this time.
Yeah.
Yes. And what's the verse? Discipline always seems something at
No
first.
discipline seems pleasant at the time, but afterward yields the peaceable fruit.
Yes. So
Mhm.
while it's uncomfortable to have to deal with some attitudes that they probably haven't just sprouted up out of nowhere. They've probably been there, but you're now having to confront them. So it's not pleasant to discipline, but there is fruit that comes after that, right? Pruning back the dead branches, right? And a lot of those branches were just pruned for us, right? A lot of outside activities and things like that. Boom, gone. And that's one of the things that we can think about for the 90-day stretch. Hopefully we will be able to move about the country freely in 90 days, but who knows? So the long-term plan is, what are the things that you really do miss? And you're going to get a long enough sabbatical to really know what your kids miss and what really is important and what can be let go. So short term, this month, what are we going to do? And then the relationships, all of those things are so important. So figuring out those things. What else on relationships? There's so many great things that families can do together, read together, play games together, even watch movies. It's okay to have a movie night. It's good. And doing things together, there's probably lots of household projects that could be done, and teaching kids skills and yard work and all those things. Like, there's a lot to do at home. Most of us probably have more books than we've read on our shelves. So even if our libraries are not available to us, we probably can find something to read. We can make the most of it and the best of it. And we can keep ourselves focused on the Lord and faithful and focused on our families and the good things that we can do. Okay, what is next?
We are right on target for starting Q&A at 9:45.
Nice.
Good job, people.
Even though I talked way too much. So.
Well, I was going to add one thing though, with relationships. Yeah. I was going to add too that this is also an opportunity for those of us who are healthy to maybe be serving. And so relationships outside of the family, like our church they started a Facebook group for needs, and nothing has really come up yet, but we anticipate that there will be needs. And so then the question is could my teenagers go do grocery shopping for, an elderly person in our church who doesn't feel comfortable getting out, or, just different things that arise depending on what is needed. Different ones of us could volunteer, but I do think it's a chance for us to connect in maybe unusual ways, pen pals for the kids, letter writing, or, just all these different things. There are ways to maintain out of the house relationships, even in this time. So, yeah,
we can practice our phone calling skills, not just a text, but you can actually pick up the phone and call people. Oh my goodness. Today. I know. It's back like it's 1999, folks. Woo! We can call people. Grandparents love being called, and aunts and uncles and great aunts and uncles, right? These are all things that are possible with the technology that we have. Not everyone has to have a Zoom call or a FaceTime. We can just call. It means a lot to people. Yeah, emailing people that are in your local homeschool communities would be great. Checking in on them. Even so, right? It's no, I know sometimes the phone is scary, and yet at the end, I bet you'll appreciate it. The controversy, yes, very controversial.
I was going to say, Yeah.
Exercise
burping.
and call people. Do burpees and call people.
No burpees seem pleasant at the time, but afterwards yields the peaceable fruit.
Amen.
Okay, so questions. This is being recorded. There is going to be a replay here at this link, and we're also going to put it inside Sistership where you can find the replay, and we'll download the chat also, since there's so much being shared there, and that will be available as a PDF too. Someone asked about resources for free public domain type books since libraries are closed, and a lot of people have already shared links in there. So if you know some, you can go in, you can click the ask a question and write an answer to any of these questions also. People are mentioning Hoopla, Overdrive, Internet Archive, so archive.org. And
pretty much Kindle has a free version of almost all public domain books. I mean, sometimes their formatting's not great, but it's like all the classics are pretty much free. So you can get all the Woodhouse you want for free on Amazon. Which is pretty fantastic.
How about what do you do with the kids while you are doing it? I assume that probably means reading. I think the it is reading.
So we started, well, not right now, but last week when we were actually on quarantine, we did an hour. My kids are older, so they can handle it. An hour in our rooms for quiet time, meaning they needed to read for some time and then they could play quietly with Legos. But I needed to have that time because they were doing that. If you have people who need more attention and discipline about this, when my kids were little, we all sat in the living room together and had quiet reading time. They got to have a pile of books on the couch and everyone just sat there. And obviously my reading time was interrupted more in the beginning, but less as time went on. And I just was like, no, it's time to be quiet. It's time to be quiet. Right? We all need quiet time. No matter if you're the most super extrovert there is, everyone needs some quiet time. But sitting quietly together, in your living room is totally, reading time, feet off the floor. That's kind of what it is. And no toys allowed. That's what we did.
It's okay to say, okay, mom's going to read for 30 minutes. So unless someone's on fire or bleeding, you don't have to interrupt me. Your glass of water that you need me to pour you can wait until I'm done. I think it's good for them to see mom reading her Bible or studying or, whatever she's doing. And so you can work them up. I mean, if they're not used to it, you can work them up by starting with 10 minutes and then going from there. But when my children are all big now, so lots of times I'm reading while they're outside riding their bikes or whatever, because at least here you're just not supposed to be with other people. You're allowed to be out and taking a walk or whatever. So they're out. So when they're gone is often when I'm reading. But I mean, when they were little, they were trained not to interrupt. They could play quietly or whatever.
Joy, you could totally set a timer. I think that's really helpful for some kids. Some kids, they'll be checking it every 2 seconds. So it just depends on your kids' personalities. But yeah, setting a timer is great. My kids could only ask me how much time was left once. If they asked more than once, then I added 10 minutes to the time. So they can just learn to wait patiently. So yeah, some kids need a timer. Yeah, some kids, if they have a timer, they have a visual cue, they can do that. So some kids don't. Yeah.
With some kids, that's how you can teach them to read a clock.
Yeah.
Well, like when it's 1:30, we'll be done. What's 1:30? Well, it looks like this, and then they can just stare at the clock until it gets there.
Yeah. Yes. Also assigning burpees to your children if they're getting too rambunctious works wonders. So
I saw a little boy in our neighborhood. I'm convinced his parents sent him out and said, you have to run around the block as fast as you can. I was on a walk and he came out and I met him coming back. We were kind of walking up. I thought, oh, I know what happened. There was a frowning person in the front yard waiting for him to return,
Making sure that he's actually running. I've done that.
It's great. All right. More questions?
Amy says that her house is under construction. Everything doesn't have a place and it's overwhelming. Tips. Should I box stuff up?
I probably would box things up.
Yeah.
We're giving the boot to all non-essentials. Why not?
Or even just move it to a different spot where it's not like you feel like you're supposed to take care of everything.
Right.
But can you clear the main living spaces so that the stuff that doesn't have a home isn't in those places?
Yeah.
Is there another place it can go?
My sister-in-law has a great system. They are fortunate enough to have a basement and it's a playroom, but even so, she only allows, they have like big tubs that have, like trains in one and Duplos in another. And the kids are only allowed to have 2 boxes out at a time. And once they clean up one, they can get a different box. But this just encourages kids to clean up after themselves. And she's very good at that. So, even if you do box it up, maybe having a limit on, okay, you can have 1 box at a time. So sure. But that can be helpful.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. And even if you take some at night, he probably won't notice or she. Oftentimes I sneak in, or when they were younger, I did. Now I just dodge things.
Hilarious. It's like the disappearing church crafts from Sunday school. I don't know. Joy,
we have an attic and, you could always put it in your closet, if you have some space, just find it in a space that they're not going to look at easily. And they probably won't even. For a long time, my bathtub wasn't working. And so we stored things in my bathtub. So get creative. It doesn't have to be container store worthy. Just out of sight, out of mind helps with kids. So. True. Okay. Somebody. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, somebody had asked the 3 things for nurturing relationships, like commitments, creative solutions, and then family culture. I think, is that what we were talking about? Somebody just had asked on here.
Yes. So
yeah,
right here is the section. So do you want to run through those, Abby, and just explain each category?
Yeah. So the idea is to make a commitment is similar to a goal, but like I'm committed to calling 3 people from my family this week. I'm committing to smile and hug my children every day. Creative social solutions, right? My kids really are missing their friends and we need to figure out a way to let them connect. Family culture. This week, we're going to have a movie night and have popcorn, or we're going to order pizza from our favorite local place, right? So you're coming up with ways, you're brainstorming or brain dumping things that you want to have happen in your family's life, what you are actually committing to, and then keeping accountable to that, right? Some people don't like goals. And it seems silly to be like, my goal is to call 3 people. Okay. But my commitment is to call my grandma, my mom, and my sister, right? Those are 3 things I can do. It doesn't seem like a big deal. And yet writing it down can make all the difference. All right.
Yeah. And, I think Abby saw this 60, 90-day thing for planning life in general. And we are specifically talking here about using this for planning quarantine. Yes, it might be 90 days. We don't know, but we're going to make a plan moving forward. So we have a plan and aren't always like aren't living in the turmoil all the time. Like we have a plan to move forward for the foreseeable future. And then when things change, because they'll change again, you just do it again. But we are making a plan for times as they are right now. And I think there's one question here that probably a lot of people are dealing with. Having trouble making new temporary schedule with my husband working from home each day at the kitchen table. We're in a very flexible routine, but I'm not in charge anymore. Husband isn't a big fan of making a new schedule, wants to wing it. And so we go back to that rock tumbler thing where living together, is sanctifying. And I think that I liked this question because I think she's figured out the nub of the thing is that she's not in charge anymore.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And when So my husband's been working from home for 7 years, and it was an adjustment at first for precisely that reason. And one of the things that I realized when he started working from home is how much my spin on the story of how our days went was in my head and not reality. When he saw what was really going on in our home, in our days with his own eyes, it was different than what I would have told him over chat, and he would come up, to get his water or whatever, when I would be having some difficulties with a child over their math. And maybe I was a little bit unnecessarily flustered. And suddenly seeing that from someone else's perspective instead of just my own, it was difficult and hugely sanctifying. And so if we can not set ourselves up as adversarial or two different teams with our husbands during this time, but recognize we have to be one. We have to get on the same page, even if that means me, not being in charge and not doing things the way I would want this to be. I think my idea is so much better. Well, for the sake of being one and moving together as a team, just try out his plan.
And also, I bet you even very spontaneous people we are so predictable and we are so routine based. Everyone, usually eats around the same times. Everyone, they'll take bathroom break. Like, we are fairly routine individuals, which is why throwing it off. So is it that they have no routine and they want to wing it, or is it just not your routine? Mm-hmm. So it feels like winging it because they're a disruption. So I think that we can learn to adjust. And I'm sure your husband is having to learn to adjust too, right? Like, if they're not home used to the noise and chaos and the realities of your everyday life at home, it's going to be an adjustment for them too. So we both need to extend one another that common grace of, I saw one funny meme, like they're like, if you're both at home, invent a coworker that you can blame everything on, right? Like, that darn Trudy, if anyone's named Trudy, I'm sorry. She's always just messing things up, So make it fun for a while. Like, it's going to take a little bit of time to adjust to this. This is all new for everyone. So it's not just you, and you are not, the center of the world, right? As much as we are when we are, over our little people and we get to tell them what to do and they mostly obey. If you have teenagers, you're probably like, this kind of changes. So, so it's probably less of an adjustment. If you just have all littles, it's definitely a bigger adjustment. Yeah. So Mr. Nobody.
I was going to recommend keeping a journal, write down exactly what does happen each day, because you'll probably find a pattern. Like Abby said, like, everybody has habits. We just don't all realize it. So my guess is that you would find that either there is kind of a somewhat predictable thing going on, or that it's not so much that everything happens at the same time every day, but everything is equally far apart. So you might figure out, like, oh, well, we always eat breakfast this long after he wakes up and lunch this long after that. And so even if the wake up time isn't consistent, the whole thing, the pattern actually is. But it might be that you'll discern enough to be able to sort of plan your day in a way that helps you feel more sane, without it being a power struggle. I don't know. I always did this with newborns, because I always figured out, like, they actually were predictable. I just didn't know what it was. So I would just start writing down until I noticed, okay, this is how this child is organizing himself. So we'll go with that.
You get to be your own anthropologist in your home, right? Study of these wild beasts that will not stop eating.
All right.
Yes.
Any more questions, or is that it?
let's see. How about, can you explain the difference between practices, routines, and commitments?
Yeah.
I think we'll end with that one and then
Great.
kind of move forward from there.
Okay. So, oh, and someone wants to know what a burpee is. Yes. Okay. I might end with that. No. So a practice is just something that you want to get better at, right? Practices are things that you can put into practice. Let's say smiling at your children has been not something that you've been great at lately. Like you've been giving them the mom look, right? So you're going to practice every time they walk into the room, smile at them. That was one that I got from Misty Winkler. She is great. Routines. Also, Misty has a bunch of things on her website, Simply Convivial, that you can do, and it's all about routines. Humble Habits and Sweep and Smile for cleaning routines. Coming up with some plans for how you want to clean. Like, are you going to make your bed every morning? Are you going to get dressed every morning? How are you going to prepare yourself for the day? Cooking routines, right? If you are newly to being home all the time, you are going to need to feed your people and come up with times, because not only does it take time to eat and clean up eating, but it also takes time to prep and make food and cook it. So coming up with some routines, like in the mornings, I often not just make breakfast, but I also prepare either part of lunch or part of dinner, right? Putting something in the crock pot or soaking beans, right? How are you going to do these things? These are just routines. When I go to bed at night, I have a specific routine, right? Do I have a cup of tea? Do I have some reading time, quiet time, right? These are all good things that you can do and build into your schedule and into your lives. They're lovely. Instead of just sitting there watching a screen, right? Sometimes movies are nice, but sometimes it's nice to get a cup of tea, to sit quietly somewhere after the kids go to bed and just kind of decompress for the day without the moms, right? The momming me, right? That's what you call it, Brandy.
Right.
And then what did we say? Practices, routines, and commitments. Commitments, I think I explained. So just something that you're going to commit to small. Like I commit to turning off my phone and electronics at 8 p.m. Or I commit to, oh, that's the other one on physical I forgot to mention. Sleep. Give yourself a bedtime. Just because you don't have to get up and get somewhere, please still give yourself a bedtime. Go to bed at a decent hour. Get sleep. Sleeping is so important for attitudes, for bodily health, for mental stability. You will thank yourself in the morning. I get up refreshed when I go to bed on time. It's amazing. It's like those two things go to bed. I wake up at the same time no matter what. So my bedtime has to be consistent or I feel it the next day and I cannot sleep in. That is just me, my person. It's how God made me. And so I have adjusted to that. So I send myself to bed. Yeah. And like a practice would be setting the coffee the night before, like Dawn does, or, kind of come up with an evening reset routine where all the dishes are done, counters are cleared, and you have breakfast set out or parts of breakfast set out for tomorrow, or maybe bread dough rising, right? So those are practices. Okay. A burpee, for all of you who don't know. You stand straight up. I would demonstrate it, but I don't think my camera will do it. And I don't think there's room. I'm at my in-laws' house because I actually have to run out to the barns as soon as I'm done to avoid an irritated husband because I'm here. So you stand up and then you go down to the ground. You can either go down carefully on your knees and hands, or you can just kind of flop down as fast as you can. I'm sure there's tons of videos out there on how to do a burpee. And then you stand back up, you push up on your hands and on your toes, and then you hop towards your feet, and then you jump up in the air and you clap as you stand all the way up. You do not have to do a push-up. Some people are like, oh, in order to do a burpee, you have to lay down all the way on the ground, do a push-up, then hop yourself up, and then jump up and clap. That is stupid. So you don't have to do that. I draw the line at that. Also, if you didn't want to do burpees, you could do push-ups, right? If you did one push-up every day for 90 days, I will tell you, you will build strength. Any little thing you can do is good for you. So do it. And we all fall down. Yes.
Disclaimer, Abby is young.
I am almost 37. Thank you very much. I am no longer young. Trust me, my body is feeling it. So also, great thing to do, get a Fitbit. It will give you the feedback you need to get moving. And you can join me in my Fitbit work week hustle, but you will lose because it's habit. Counter push-ups are great. Oh, good. Yes. So
one humble habit movement. So we have in Humble Habits, the program, you set a movement habit that's supposed to be just tiny. We call them seed habits. And one that someone picked last time around, I thought was so smart, especially now this time with all the hand washing. So she tied her new habit to hand washing. While she's washing her hands, Abby, it probably has a name where you go up and down on your tiptoes, up and down.
Oh yeah. Calf raises.
Calf raises. There you go. Super simple, but builds strength and stretches and something you're already doing. It's not taking any more time to just add a little something in.
Yes. Yeah. And, it's a great way to get a clear mental, thing is go walk around your house, go outside and walk around your house. Yes. I am walking a lot lately. So.
All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. We're going to get this into sistership as quickly as we can. I think it's going to take my computer a little bit of time here. It's my hunch. But if you aren't a part of sistership, we have different levels. There is a free version and where we can continue the conversation, continue asking questions, share ideas. And that's what the sistership is all about. I just put the link in the bottom. So we can continue planning together, asking questions, getting ideas from one another inside sistership. And we'd love to see you there.
And I do have one quote that actually Brandy sent me, and I forgot to say it earlier. So I'll just end on the quote. Sorry. Okay.
Perfect.
So this is a C.S. Lewis quote, and I'll type it or I'll link it here too. But if we are going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, or we can say the coronavirus, let that bomb, when it comes, find us doing something sensible and human things. Praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting to our friends over a pint and a game of darts, not huddled together like frightened sheep and thinking about bombs. They might break our bodies. A microbe can do that. Oh, look at that. But they need not dominate our minds. So there it is. All right. Be faithful, be fruitful. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.